Okay, so this is the May 29th, 2024 regular meeting of the East Bethel, Minnesota City Council. If everybody wants to reassemble, we'll first item on our agenda.
Gotta say the pledge.
Huh?
Gotta say the pledge.
That's what I was about to say. What I was about to say was the first thing on our agenda after the call to order is to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. Where's Eric?
Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, thank you.
Make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none heard. Wow.
We got a couple of things before this.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, under presentations and public hearings, is the Anoka County Sheriff's Office monthly report. The Lieutenant Derek Peters here. Morning, or evening, sir.
Hello, Council.
Howdy.
It's good to see everybody tonight. We have a packed house, so
Yeah.
I'll get right to it. April had a total of 409 calls, which was our busiest month thus far during the year. So we had 4 assaults, 2 thefts, and 7 damage to property calls that we responded to. We made a total of 28 custodial arrests for miscellaneous offenses. 128 traffic stops were conducted within the city limits, which resulted in the issuance of 29 traffic citations. So we're seeing that traffic pick up out on our roadways, and we're responding appropriately to taking action when we see it. So on the 9th of April at 9:19 p.m., Deputy Petrich stopped a vehicle at 237th and University for an equipment violation. While speaking with the driver, Deputy Petrich noted signs of alcohol impairment on the driver. He asked the female driver to step out of the vehicle to perform standardized field sobriety tests, which she did and ultimately failed. The driver provided a PBT, which resulted in a .119 reading. Deputy Petrich arrested the driver for DWI and transported her to the sheriff's office for an evidentiary test. The driver provided a breath sample, which reported a final value of .10. The driver was transported to the Anoka County Jail and cited for 4th-degree DWI with no priors. On the 10th of April, the very next evening, Deputy Eldine stopped a vehicle for an equipment violation again. While speaking with the driver, Deputy Eldine learned the driver had a canceled driver's status. Deputy Eldine had the male exit the car and advised him that he was under arrest for driving after cancellation, inimical to public safety. Deputy Eldine took the male into custody without incident and later transported him to jail, where he was booked for the gross misdemeanor offense. Then on the 13th of April at 1:09 a.m., Deputy Petrich stopped out with a parked vehicle near a closed business that had recently been a victim of theft. Deputy Petrich ID'd the driver and recognized him from a previous arrest in the exact same location. Deputy Petrich ran checks on the driver, finding 2 active warrants for the male's arrest. Deputy Petrich ordered the male from the car, and the male complied. As he told the driver and explained to him that he was under arrest for the outstanding warrants, the male began to resist and pulled away in an attempt to run. Deputy Petrich was successful in grabbing the male's arm and escorted him to the ground. The male was placed in handcuffs and secured in a patrol vehicle. The male was later transported to jail on the outstanding warrants and released to our jail staff there without incident. And then finally, on the 21st of April, Sergeant Wickland and deputies were dispatched to a residence in the 1100 block of 231st Lane Northeast on a trespassing complaint. The deputies, who are familiar with this location and its occupants, arrived and spoke to the owner, who was agitated and stated there was a male inside of his house who had been previously trespassed from the property. The homeowner allowed the deputies inside to check for the suspect and eventually located him hiding in an attic. The deputies advised the male that he was under arrest for trespassing and had him climb down the ladder leading up to the attic. The male was later taken into custody and transported to jail, where he was booked for the misdemeanor trespassing complaint. So, busy month all around in April, as I had stated, was our busiest month this year so far. So we're seeing a lot of increased activity with the warmer weather. And with that, it is the official start of summer now. So we are entering the 100 deadliest days on Minnesota roadways. So the period between Memorial Day and Labor Day are traditionally the worst safety-wise throughout the state. I saw this figure the other day while I was putting this together, but approximately 40% of all of our fatal traffic crashes that happen in the state occur during this 3-month period. So this is my friendly reminder and PSA that please make sure that you buckle up, drive safely out on our roadways, and please arrange for a sober ride if you need one. And then finally, if you see anything out there, please say something, call us, call 911. We will respond and we will deal with things accordingly. So thank you again for having me this
I
evening.
got 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the sheet here, the animal calls, there's
Yes.
30 of them. Is that for dogs running loose or is that for a bear? Down here, there's been a lot of bear sightings.
Yeah, could be a combination of all the above. So all of those are lumped into one category, and those are those animal complaints. So sometimes we respond to the cats and the bears and the dogs and everything that you can think of. We just lump those together in one large number. So
Looks like domestics are up quite a bit.
domestics are up too. Yeah,
A lot.
this weekend was very busy, not particularly in East Bethel, but everywhere else in our patrol area, we were very busy. So I think the warmer weather and people going outside and enjoying that weather really is creating some issues, but that's typical what we see at this time of year.
Is the construction on 65 having an impact in terms of accidents and such?
You know, Mayor, I think that a lot of folks are actually staying away from there.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen an uptick there, which I had expected or we had expected to see.
Yeah.
But the data hasn't really shown one way or the other. We're always going to get our crashes on 65. But that construction area, I think, I used to take it all the way up here on our Monday nights, our traditional Monday night meetings. But tonight I drove up Cedar. I took 221st East, and the last time I had been through there, it wasn't very significant. But that could all change, I suppose, with the construction continuing to increase throughout the summer here and as the years go on.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. Going back 6 years, according to your charts on assaults, I mean, we've more than doubled our year-to-date.
Yep.
It's a little concerning. Is something going on in different areas of the city, or what's happening?
No, I think it's cyclical. We're usually used to seeing these type of numbers, as I had stated, as it pertains to assaults when it gets warmer out. But you're right. I mean, it's nearly double. It's certainly nearly double. I don't have any trend data to suggest the reasons why. Certainly something that we can keep an eye on and kind of look at as time goes on here throughout the summer.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Derek.
Next item on the agenda is the Fire Department, East Bethel Fire Department Monthly Report. Chief Rod Sanow.
Good evening, Mayor and Council
Howdy.
members.
Evening.
And I have my April report here. For the month of April, the fire department responded to 75 calls for service. We responded to 55 medicals, 7 accidents, 1 alarm, 3 fires, and 1 mutual aid. As of today, we responded to 385 calls for service this year. Compared to 393 from last year. So we're about 2% behind last year's volume. But we're picking that up. The month of May has got a lot busier than that. So then, PSA, the fire department is always looking for people to join the department. If you're interested in finding out what's involved to become a firefighter, please contact us. My email and phone number is on the city website, or you can go to mnfire.com hire, and they'll put you in contact with the fire department. That's MN Fire Hire is a statewide fire recruitment. And people just log in there, put in their email, or not email, but their zip code and that, and then MN Fire will send us a notice that these people are looking, and we'll get in contact with them.
Good system.
Yep. And then, as always, with the summer coming, rec fires. A rec fire is a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot high flames. And anything bigger than that, you need to get a burning permit. Right now, there's no burning restrictions on, but we ask that you get the burning permit from City Hall. It's good for 3 nights. You can burn between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. The fire must always be attended while it's burning, and the fire must be extinguished before you leave the site. If you do have a fire, please tell your neighbors that you're going to be burning so they don't call 911, you know. And look for, on the burning permit, there is a list of stuff that you can and you cannot burn. So pay attention to that. You know, everybody's done this, but we ask that you try not to start the fire with gasoline, because it does make a little bit of a bang.
Well,
It's hard to get that wet stuff going.
Yeah, sometimes it is, but, you know, and then we'll get a call for an explosion in the area. So, you know, we're trying to keep the calls down a little bit. And if a fire gets out of control, call us right away, the fire department, 911, and let us come and try to get it out before, you know, you can start, but we're a little better equipped to get the fire out than most people are. And with that, I will take any questions.
For fighter recruitment, didn't you hold a event last year for that?
We did, and we are actually going to be talking about trying to get another one going and that. We have came up with some plans. You know, if you're driving down across 22 and you get to Oak Grove Station 2, they do have a sign out that's hiring, but that sign's always there, so I think people by now just ignore it. So we want to do something like that, but only have it up for about a month at a time, and try to get recruitment people in to, you know, come in and do it, and that. But we want these people to call us, and we'll be upfront with them what it's going to be, what the involvement is on to become a firefighter. You know, how much time you have to put in, how much training there is, and that. Because some people don't realize that it is a lot of time.
yeah.
And that.
Have you guys used the East Bethel Bulletin? to
I do
heighten-
believe
heighten
so.
awareness?
Jill has put stuff in there, in that.
Jill King, yeah.
Jill King, yep, she's the one that handles that. And that, so. We haven't used the reader board, but we may consider doing that pretty soon
Yeah,
too.
it's right there up the street,
You know.
yeah.
That, so, we're about 5 to 10 firefighters short of what we would like to be, you know. But we're getting the job done though, still with what we have.
Yeah.
Chief, I got a question for you.
Yes.
It's like, on our May 13th meeting, we approved a probationary period for a firefighter, Rachel Miller.
Yes.
I'm curious, our previous chief, Ducharme, used to bring them here after their probationary period so we could recognize that. Is there any reason that you haven't done that, or you plan on doing that? I'd like to tell them thank you for, I mean, it's a big commitment to do that. And if they were here, we could thank them, you know, and show them our appreciation.
I would like to do that, but to do that also, I have to pull them out of training
Oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
because it's Monday
It's
nights.
Monday night, okay.
And we
Yeah.
train on Monday nights and I have to pull them out of training.
Is there any way that, I don't know if you could send an email or something that we could respond to them personally and let them know that we appreciate what they're doing?
Yes, I can do that. And
Put
that-
me on your list, I'd appreciate that.
Yep.
Good
and,
idea.
And I do believe Ben puts that in the newsletter,
Okay.
the
I don't remember
department
seeing it.
newsletter you guys should all get.
Yeah.
If you're not getting it, let me know so we can get it to you.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Because
that,
it's important to me, because it's a big commitment, like you say, and I understand, and they need to be recognized for their service for our
Yes,
residents.
yep.
So, thank you.
yep, like I said, because of our Monday night training,
Yeah,
it's
I
hard to
get that now.
pull them out of Monday night training
Right.
and that.
With all the rain, how's the fire danger looking?
I do believe the DNR has it at low, but I'm not for sure
Okay.
in that. But like I said, just because if we get a lot of rain, that grass dries out in an hour and it can burn.
Well, thank you very much, Rod.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks.
Not right now.
No.
I don't know if you can over there. I can certainly plug it in here.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Anoka County Election Integrity. Is it team or task force? Team? Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna have that. Oh, yes, actually, I am HDMI right there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, how you doing? Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me for not being totally prepared. Let me just start out by letting you know how big a deal this is. This is,
Speak into the mic,
okay,
please.
let me just let y'all know how big a deal this is and kind of provide some context. If you're in your books, let's go to the first page. This isn't about us. This is the most amazing group of people I've ever worked with, and I just literally say a prayer for God, to God, that I represent the work that's gone into this. This is a return of self-governance by the people, of the people, and for the people. These people have gotten together for over 2 years, sticking together, working with formal meetings one night a week, but much more than that during the week. It represents my hope for what's coming on the horizon. Our country is in trouble. We all know that. And the opportunity to change things is right here. The enemy has attacked us at our core. The core, the basic validation of a government of the people, for the people, and by the people is a voting system that people trust. People don't trust the voting system. If I have to prove that to you, I doubt if I have to prove that to you. I'm not going to attack the reasons or present any of that, but in our pursuits here, trying to be of service to Anoka County and the cities here, we have not found anything close to the degree of public service envisioned by our founders initially. You guys represent that last hope. I know from knowing Kevin, we worship at the same church now, but I know from even before that, you guys aren't in it for the money, right?
Well, actually, we are. We're just really stupid.
I mean, what comes to mind is the quote, maybe apocryphal, about Mother Teresa at a dinner one night with wealthy donors, and the man who introduced her said, Mother Teresa, I've been in Calcutta. I've seen the work you do. I wouldn't do it for $1 million. And her response was, neither would I. And that's how I look at you guys. I know what's here. And you're not doing it for public recognition. What we have noticed is that the higher in the food chain we move, the higher these podiums come. And people, symbolically, it's harder to identify friends and neighbors in our journey here. These people represent America, and they're extraordinary in their ability to recognize what's going on, and that's motivated us here. We've got a lot of different recommendations, a lot of things to look at here. Let's go to the next slide here. You will notice, obviously, I was not selected for my silver tongue qualities or my good looks and physique. I'm here to speak from the heart to you about the essence of this matter and what it's all about. And this is a simplistic view. This is a simplistic view of the system, and I want to make sure nobody in this room thinks we're challenging the integrity of the people at the city, state, county levels, integrity in this. We've all been caught up in something far worse than that, and that's the rule from the top that's really, truly introduced a level of complexity beyond belief. It's been disguised by simple terminology. They call our voting machines tabulators. I got off track with a wonderful election manager here in Anoka County. When I saw those tabulators are full scale, highly complex, programmable computers that I grew up with from MIT into about a 60-year career working with those things. And when he told me they weren't connected to the internet, and I saw the modem online and read about it in the instruction manual, I was upset. It was only as we went deeper and I saw what he was up against in terms of the complexity that I realized the uselessness of his political science degree and how much what we try and do at the county level is out of our control. We have a Secretary of State statewide registration system that's out of control, deliberately designed that way. We're victims to that. Everybody else is. This is not anywhere, shape, or form an attack on the integrity of people you guys work with, I know, and know their dedication and hard service. Let's go to the next slide. This is up there simply to show the complexity of the system we're up against. If you guys don't pay attention, I'm going to take you through every box of that. No, you know, look, I went to school with some of the most brilliant people in the world, far, far exceeding what I knew people could do. A computer science doctorate with training by the CIA and the biggest corporations in the world could not manage this system. It is full of leaks and full of vulnerabilities. That's the point we want to make here. What's going on down here really matters because the forces at work are really and truly hiding the truth from us. And they're almost impossible to catch except by returning to what we term homegrown local control. I'm going to save the creation crescendo to close here to up here. We have to return to local control the bottom-up government that our founders envisioned. If you have any questions about any of the detail in the book or in the presentation, let's hope, but we brought all our people here to back us up because the work has been divided here. Let's go on to the next slide. We've been refined by presenting this information to a variety of audiences for a long time. And the result here isn't the results of our thinking, it's been by coaching from people like Matt Look and Kevin and people in the BPOUs, other cities, etc. We know we can't get everything at once. We chose cities, first of all, because we knew we couldn't impact the state. We have no control of what the state does. We went to the county and found in place wonderful people who really weren't willing to challenge the state for control. We did find people at this level who were. And I know your guys' hearts. I think you'll see what we're talking about here as we go through. We can't change the world but one bite at a time. These are pragmatic, relatively easy things to do at this level that will make a huge difference, first of all, in the confidence of people, and second of all, in terms of beginning to break up the complexity of a state-controlled system. Let's go to the next slide. The first thing we're talking about here is small voting precincts. This is completely under your control. I live and breathe here, and the most wonderful experience I had was the room filled with people stating the reasons why they were running for such a, how to say it, reward-free position as yours. And y'all all voice the same love that we all know, different parts. You know you're in East Bethel, even when you're in Highway 65, and certainly when you get on 221. Something changes here. Anyway, next slide, please. The recommended size for precincts is 2,000. The growth is hit out here, unfortunately, and I think y'all already know we're going to need to add some precincts here just for the sake of manageability, for no other reason. Let's do the next slide. We did look at trends though, and I'm going to put a warning on why that manageability is so important. We all know the issue with mail-in voters. Sometimes the problem with the whole system is you can't separate early voting from absentee ballots and the types of analysis I want to do. But it's on the rise. We can expect an increase this year, probably beyond what we experienced in 2020. And I would say the integrity of those ballots, not the people casting, not the people in this office, but that mail-in system is suspect. We don't have much in the way of, how to say it, high-density apartment buildings, et cetera, which is the source of most of the mail-in balloting. But as those increase, we need people on the ground here that understand how to check those mail-in ballots as well as the regular system. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, now this one I want to spend some time on. I admire you if you made it through all of Dave Clement's Let My People Free video that we sent you. That's probably the best summary of everything we've learned as we've done our research. In that video, he goes into more detail than I will about the vulnerability to the system that poll books, electronic poll books present. Next slide, please. again, the labeling as poll books is part of the effect, part of the desire to simplify the system, when in fact, the real name for poll books is iPads. Those are full-fledged computers controlled by programs. They're bigger versions of the smartphones. Do you know what's going on in your phones right now? Have you started to see the atrociousness of AI and how when you search, all of a sudden you see an offer for what you just searched on? That's the root of a lot of scams for old folks like me. And I've actually bitten on a couple. And luckily I got saved from it. But poll books have so many risk points in terms of their electronic connections to the internet. Remember that the endpoint on our side of the poll books, the electronic poll books, is right into the database, the voter registration database. All of these points provide access to that. Go on to the next one. They are programmed to do a multitude of things other than just checking you in. Some are good, some are bad, but the vulnerability to bad actors is immense with this, just immense with it. And one of my colleagues, Troy here, to address that point is that we've always had people trying to subvert our election. Election fraud is not a phenomenon of our time. What isn't always apparent is that somehow the election fraud deniers think that would have vanished in whatever year you want to start. It's never gone away, it never will. The whole point is that this whole system makes it easier for even a single bad actor to really impact all the results. Let's go on to the next slide. I'm not going to read this to you, but it's there simply because we're looking at this every day. We're trying to vet and curate the information that we send out to the county and to you, because this is the issue of the day for a substantial portion of the American citizens. I've been shocked when I contact Emmer's office, for instance, at how little interest any elected official has really shown in this issue. This is a report from Wisconsin, which has kind of been at the forefront of starting to use sophisticated technology unavailable to us right now because of a number of reasons, of the vulnerabilities these electronic poll books introduce. Let's go to the next slide. Paper works. It really has. It's not a historical phenomenon here. It was done in Anoka County until 2018, paper books alone. We have paper books produced as normal backup right now. So the poll books are essentially duplication of stuff that's already going on. 29 or 1/3 of Minnesota counties still use paper poll books. One of the few remaining good election laws demands that paper poll books be at every precinct for every election. This is stuff that we're already doing. Let's go on to the next slide. It's far more cost effective in terms of looking at the cost over here of what these systems require versus the paper and ink that's already a mandated cost of the systems act. I'm not going to get into a cost-benefit analysis, but this one is pretty simple, even to somebody who doesn't understand the county. Let's go on to the next slide. Electronic poll pads are not worth the risk. Returning to using only paper poll books is the safe way to check voters in. Paper works and it is cheaper, and we're already doing it already. It requires very little change, so we're recommending adopting a resolution here to go to paper poll books only. Let's move to the next topic. This one is going to require a little bit more discussion. Hand-counted paper ballots at the local level. When you get down to it, I've worked, a number of our people have worked as election judges. People, I won't say people, I'll say election judges are very, very reluctant to sign the tapes attesting to the fact, the tapes from out of the machines, attesting to the fact that they're accurate. They know, yes, they're accurate in terms of representing what the machine told them, but they have no idea what goes on in the machine and whether it really and truly is accurate or not. You're asking people to pledge their honor and sign something that only represents what the machine is telling them. And that's a real issue. Let's go to the next slide. The counting of votes is hidden. It's outsourced to NGOs. Commercialized proprietary electronic source codes are hidden from us. You don't know what a computer is doing unless you can audit the code. Not just 6 months ago, not just validate that it works a week ago. You got to validate that right now and continually through the voting process. We've now got, what, 45 days to vote? There's a lot of change that can be programmed into a system that's undetectable. It's interesting that somehow vote counting has become a very private thing, and most of our issues are not subject to freedom of information request at the level they need to be. An example of that is cast vote records. They're inaccessible. The counties refused to release them until 2023 when enough lawsuits were produced. But in the meantime, in the session last year, 2023, the legislature managed to cover up, make illegal all the parts of the cast vote record that really allow analysts to detect fraudulent voting. You can't tell on cast vote records in our county. Again, Tom Hunt produced it for us, but there's no date, time stamp on it. You cannot identify the mail-in ballots from the voters cast in person versus the early votes. That's all gone. I've tried, and we can't do it. And it's interesting, the legislature's trying to stay ahead of our investigations here. If we're looking at it, the legislature will pass a law against it. They passed a law on the CVRs, they passed a law on the ballot scans. Let me just deal for a minute on the technology of these voting machines. You take a ballot, you feed it into the machine, the machine scans it just like a Xerox machine. Then it converts that scanning data into a ballot image. It's the image of the ballot as it's digitized so that the machine can interpret it, who you voted for. And that then gets converted to a cast vote record and put into the computer and also on those flash drives, those thumb drives that we get at the end of the day and with the totals and all of that. You cannot audit a system without both the CVR and the ballot image. One by itself is not worthwhile. I'm not gonna dive deeper into it, but this is a major issue. The state is trying to stay one step ahead of us, and they've been very effective. We have been warned deliberately not to address issues that we see until after the sessions are over. Let's go on to the next slide here. Hand counts. We do look in post-election review at the hand count of votes versus the machines, but only in a very, very limited way. We don't audit primaries. We don't audit any of the Minnesota offices, county offices, down ballot races. The audits haven't been done for decades. The evidence is destroyed after 22 months. Let's go to the next slide. The post-election review audits only include 2 to 3 of all our precincts, of the precinct offices, 4 of 128 precincts. It's a 0.3% sample of 3 races, and the county expanded it to 6. But what we're missing is most of the races in the auditing here. It can be expanded to the number of city offices and precincts. Let's go to the next slide. And we already have in place legally all the procedures necessary for hand counting. Note that in the last school board election, which is the last audit done by hand, in a very tight school board race, we didn't do it by rerunning the computer totals. To make sure people trust it, we do hand votes, hand counts. In full public display, it's a wonderful thing. And I will point out that there was a machine error detected. It was only one error, but it was detected, and it wasn't from fraud. It was from the fundamental defect in the technology. The machines cannot tell intent. It was a case of somebody voted for Matt in the little oval and also wrote his name in. The system is programmed. It can't interpret that signature anyway, but it's programmed to count that as an overvote, somebody voting for 2 candidates. It's going to increase. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay, Chan, we're gonna kinda need to wrap it up here pretty soon.
I will indeed. We're willing to do a feasibility study on the cost of this. We've done it for other counties, other cities.
Did you do one for Oak Grove?
Yeah, we did one for Oak Grove. Let's go to the next slide. These are a summary of our recommendations. Let's go to the next slide. Oak Grove just recently voted 5-0 to do expanded PERs in conjunction, in partnership with the county. Okay, Weston Rolfe came up and thanked us because he knew early in the game something was off. Something was off, and our presence gave him the courage to move forward. I'm gonna say, you guys can give the same courage to other cities by adopting some of the recommendations we recommend here. Go to one more. Local control through local actions. Last slide. We got to use our powers. The system of government was set up as a check and balance, and somehow the politics of confrontation are somehow a bad word right now. Nobody wants to challenge anything. Last slide, I'm sorry, overpromised. We're here to help you. I mean, that's the whole point here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I would like to request a copy. I mean, I could do it with Weston too, but I would like to see, because they're more about similar sized cities and all that, so maybe you could give us a copy of the feasibility study you did for them. That would be informative for us, I think. And thank you for, I'm sorry with the time constraints we're dealing with. It's just the way it is, but, oh, I understand, yeah. Just so you know where I'm coming from, I have absolutely no doubt that there's corruption in our election systems, federal, state, you know, and there has been since, what, about 1791 maybe? You know, it's always been the temptation. Human beings cheat. That's when power and money are on the line. That's why we have lawyers, that's why we have judges and courts, you know, because that's what people do.
Mayor,
So-
Mayor, and I may have missed it, but for the record, if we could have the identity of the speaker, because I didn't get that, and I think that's gonna be important
Oh,
for the
this
minutes.
gentleman?
Correct.
Channing, Channing,
All right,
Stowell, Stowell.
great. Now it'll be on the record. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
It'll be public data, sir.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the public forum. Does anybody signed up to speak at our public forum? No?
No one signed up.
Okay, well, then we'll close the public forum that never opened to begin with and move on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'd like to second that, but, I'd like to move G1, up to, make it what, GH on the consent agenda?
G1.
Yeah, it's the assessor,
Oh, that's 8. That's in section 8.
section 8.
Okay, maybe we could do this, because Bob's raised an interesting point. And I know we have a motion out there, just as kind of an aside. But Bob was wondering if maybe we could change the agenda slightly, let's say after we're done with the consent agenda, and move the
Yes.
matter of the assessor contract up,
Yes, you can do that.
just out of respect for your time, you know. Now, if you want to sit here through everything, that's up to you, but. Okay, so but for the current moment, we have the motion made to approve the consent agenda,
I'll second.
and Mr. DeRoche seconds it.
So you want to talk about the assessor contract right now, or you want to change the order in the listing in the agenda so that we're talking about the assessor contract next?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think the intent would be to leave the consent agenda as is, and then the new 7 would be this item right here, G1.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, we'll just make the
follow
change
through with the
after
rest of the
just-
agenda.
Just looking for clarification.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Okay, so, it's been so long, it's been 3 weeks, I forgot how to do this already. So do we vote to, and then have discussion and then do the polling, or I'm drawing a blank?
Motion made and seconded. If anybody wants to pull anything, we say that now.
Right.
Then we vote on what's left.
That's what I recalled. Does anybody have anything on the consent agenda that they want to pull? I don't want to pull anything, but I have a question to ask. It actually, on the digitals, it said the work meeting minutes, but there was just a regular meeting, and I know they were corrected in the printed version. But have steps been taken to assure that Council Member Mundell will receive notifications for the Anoka County Blaine Airport Advisory Commission in the future?
Yes,
Have they-
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
yes.
that's the only question I had. I didn't need to pull any.
Yeah,
of it.
Mr.
make sure.
Look forwarded me got that corrected and forwarded me the correct information, I think the next day.
With Jennifer Lewis.
Right, and
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be a trust but verify scenario, so be sure to look for that for the next
Well,
meeting. But I think
Jennifer's on top of it, so,
she's been made aware of it,
Yeah,
so if she doesn't email you, then we'll need to get back to her, but
Okay.
she should.
thank you for that clarification. Well, if there are nobody pulling anything, then, is there any further discussion of the consent agenda? If not, we're just gonna go to a vote. Apparently not. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as it stands, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Okay, and then we're just gonna flip. We're gonna pull 8G up to being the next item on the agenda. And that's the consider the approval of the assessor contract. And Matt, you're leading this.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We've had an opportunity to look over some of this information now. Alex has been very kind in coming to the various different meetings to answer questions on this. We have before us here a 3-year contract and with a 6-month cancellation clause in the event that this isn't working out. I don't know that any city has ever exercised that. I could be wrong, but essentially, the county is willing to work in either capacity, whether you hire someone independently or you work with the county directly. We did not receive any other application or responses to the RFP that I'm aware of. And you can kind of see the breakdown of some of the work that's already being done here and some of the costs associated with it. It's a slightly more than what we were paying for prior, and but I think it's $800 difference or somewhere in that neighborhood. I think that that it would be staff recommendation to approve the assessor joint powers agreement.
I move to approve the county assessor's position.
Second.
So the motion is made and seconded to approve the joint powers agreement between the city of East Bethel and the county of Anoka for assessment of property. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard.
Good speech.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have any questions?
You're a man of few words,
Yeah,
that's
if you guys
for
have
sure.
any questions, Matt,
You don't
Matt
want
and-
to unsell it right now.
Matt and Aaron know how to get a hold of me, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks for your patience. That was thoughtful of you to encourage us to do that, Mr. DeRoche.
That's me, Mr. Thoughtful.
Mr. Thoughtful, yeah. That's funny, that's not the name I've heard. Bob and I are neighbors, so we like to give each other a hard time. Anyway, so we're back on our agenda. So nothing under item 7, item 8, architectural standards for business under community development, and Mr. Berg is gonna lead us off.
One last time, on April 3rd of 2023, at a council meeting, Councilmember Smith and Miller recommended amending various codes which are contained within the zoning code. Council directed staff to route the amendments to the Planning Commission for public hearing and recommendation. At the April 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, these were discussed after holding a public hearing. Due to mixed levels of support and a limited amount of time for discussion, the proposed revisions, staff thought it was best to have them brought back, the zoning code amendments for further discussion and formal recommendation at a subsequent meeting. A formal recommendation on section 24 of the exterior storage was presented and passed by the council at the June 26, 2023 meeting. However, section 28 architectural standards had numerous revisions, which city staff compiled recommendations, creating a third draft for a December 27th, 2023 meeting. At that time, it was the request of the council to allow Councilmember Miller to review those revisions. Councilmember Miller's revisions were discussed at the May 13th, 2024 meeting and were to be brought back for further discussion and consideration or adoption On Tuesday of this week, City Administrator Look and myself met with Council Member Miller, and the attachment to the packet, the addendum that I handed out prior to the meeting, which was included in the packet electronically when it was published, is the final version of the ordinance draft that Council Member Miller, City Administrator Look, and myself drafted on Tuesday morning. That is up for your adoption. The red lines in the ordinance are in addition to the existing ordinance, not changing any of the previous language, but just adding section 4 to extend or lighten standards, architectural features for those areas outside of the MUSA or the city utility service area in the B2, B3, and the light industrial districts.
I move that we go with the changes to the
Second.
code. That's been kind of a long time coming. Appreciate the work on it.
In addition to this, council, we will potentially want to do a summary publication and have it in the newspaper for 10 days in order to make it official. At the end of the 10-day period, it would then become law or become ordinance.
Oh, we still vote on it now, don't we?
Yes, but you should include that in your motion
Oh,
to approve
good
a
job.
10-day summary publication.
To amend the motion, I move to make the changes to the architectural standards, voting on it tonight, and we will put it in the paper for a 10-day notification. Pending that, then it'll go into effect.
Second.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded, and I'm not gonna reiterate it, so we'll just say, any further discussion?
I just have one question, Aaron, on A1, where it includes concrete block, is that, would that be some sort of finished concrete block?
Yes, so from the previous section, we removed the words unadorned or unfinished to concrete block. So that would mean that it's finished or
Okay.
adorned concrete panels.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Yep.
All right, that's the only question I have.
All those in favor of approving this amendment to the ordinances?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None heard. Hard to imagine, isn't it, Tim?
Only took a year.
Only took a year.
It's a good thing.
These things take time.
Yes, they do. And coming to the podium to replace Mr. Berg is Mr. Nate Ashford, our Public Works Director for East Bethel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
And we're gonna talk, Nate's gonna talk about the street capital improvement plan, the park capital improvement plan, and then we'll get into the ice arena management contract.
This is item 8.0E1, the 2025 to 2029 Roads Capital Improvement Plan. Staff prepares an annual capital improvement plan which updates the needs and costs of proposed projects, evaluates priorities, and establishes funding for these works for the coming year and each for the subsequent years for a 5-year period. The plan is presented to the City Council for their approval and used in preparation of the 2025 budget. Attached is the draft 2025 to 2029 Road CIP. Approval of the plans only commits the city for projects identified in 2025. Projects beyond 2025 are for planning purposes and will be reevaluated annually for funding prioritization during the capital improvement needs and assessment planning process. I've got 2 attachments here I'll go through quick and just give you a quick summary, and then we can look at a motion and discussion after that. On the first page of your attachment, there's the Municipal State Aid Fund. This is the fund that we can only use on state aid roads. The funding comes from the state of Minnesota, from our gasoline tax, license tab, new vehicle sales, things like that. Our portion that we get annually is $692,000 for MSA streets. And we get an additional $230,000 that we'll talk about on the next page for that can be used for maintenance. for a total of $922,000. That's what we get from the state of Minnesota. That changes year to year. We're using that figure going forward. It typically goes up. We show a negative balance in there because we can advance fund these projects, and by doing so, we actually get more money. We got a benefit by advance funding, showing that we're actually using this money to improve roads. So that's why it starts off with a negative balance, but we can advance up to 3 years on those funds. For 2025, we do not have any projects planned, so we'll allow that balance to kind of accrue for that year. Going into 2026, we have the Viking Boulevard Sandhill Parkway left turn lane that we have an agreement with Anoka County for. Our engineer's estimate on that one is $362,000. We are looking at doing a mill and overlay on Polk in Jackson. This is the street that goes by the elementary schools all the way down to Viking. And then Klondike Drive, which is the blacktop portion from there out to 65 in 2026. And after that, we don't have any project identified. We kind of like to get that balance built back up a little bit. We've got a couple other ones that we're looking at in the future, but for right now, those spots are empty.
What kind of shape is Klondike in?
The blacktop portion or the gravel portion?
The gravel portion.
It's been the same. It's a gravel road. We put chloride on it once a year. We get about 6 weeks out of the chloride.
Yeah.
We've got quotes on that. We're gonna be looking at that. That'll be coming to council here, maybe at the next meeting. We usually put that chloride on end of June, early July, and it'll last through July, through mid-August.
That road going to the gun club, that's a city street too, isn't it?
Correct, Palisade, yep.
You guys ever grade that thing?
Yeah, it gets, once a week we do Klondike and
Really?
Palisade.
No, not Klondike, but the road going off of it to the
Palisade,
Beaver
they
Brook?
do, typically they try and do it at the same time, yep.
Hmm.
Last week I had a guy that, my normal operator wasn't there, he just did Klondike, he didn't do Palisade, but this week they did the whole thing, I think.
Just curious.
A lot of traffic on that road, and a lot of people
Yes,
drive
indeed.
fast. If they drive slow, that road would last a lot longer, but the faster you drive, the quicker the washboards, the quicker you get dust.
Well, Mythbusters proved that going faster doesn't work.
Yeah, it makes the road worse quicker as well.
Yeah, it does.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just comment on the Viking Boulevard Sandhill Parkway left turn lane agreement that the city had with the county, it still has with the county. The one change in criteria out there that may happen over time here is if Viking changes to a full grade separated interchange.
Right.
And I would like I'd like to sit down with the county, Joe McPherson's very reasonable, to talk with them about would any improvement such as this get torn up in the event of a grade separated interchange?
Good point.
In which case, why
In
put
which-
it down? Yeah.
In which case, why spend the money on it?
Is this the pork chop? The thing's
No,
referred to as
no,
the
this-
pork chop turn?
Right now, we have a
Stacking.
Or is that over
right
at the other entrance of to
Stacking.
Viking Meadows? Okay.
Yep.
So I would like that question
Sorry,
answered.
Nate, did I interrupt you?
No, you're fine,
Oh,
Jim.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, so I would like that answered before we invest
Yeah.
$362,000
Yeah,
on this.
that'd be a good
Not that we
idea.
don't wanna uphold our agreements, that's certainly, if that's gonna be part of the ultimate plan, so be it. If it's gonna get torn up and, and not utilized, maybe we should buy a little time on this and try and find a solution there, so.
Looking at some of the other overpasses, even like 125th down there, I mean, yeah, it went way farther than what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I mean, if the city, Mr. Mayor, were to contribute this $362,000 into the overall project cost of a grade separated interchange.
Yeah,
As
That makes a lot
as
more
local
sense.
participation,
That makes sense.
yeah,
maybe that's an option, but.
yeah. I take your point for sure.
And that pretty much covers the state aid fund. On the next page is our street capital fund. The funding for this is a direct transfer from the general fund. We currently are using $550,000 annually for this fund. We're proposing an increase of $50,000 in 2025. To help offset some of the rising costs and inflation, we're getting quite a ways behind our neighboring cities on what we're actually putting into these. Ham Lake has a little bit more roads than us. They're at 1.1 or 1.2 million. Oak Grove's got less roads than us. They're at 750,000 or 700,000. So we're kind of getting behind. We had to push a couple of these projects down just to make sure we had enough money to pay for it. So that's kind of what we're asking for on that. That's up to the council to decide. And then going forward, We show a $50,000 increase annually to help kind of get us caught up on some of this up until 2028. But for next year, basically, we have for projects planned, underneath all these, it says North Metro JPA maintenance projects. Those are the projects we do with the other cities. It's gonna be crack sealing, painting of the roads. We've kind of gone away from chip sealing to put more of that money towards overlays. It could be fog sealing in certain instances. We usually about $105,000 to $110,000 on that.
Whatever happened to the discussions on 181st? Where we were gonna, or has that already been done? We were gonna split it because half the road is Ham Lake and half the road is ours.
Yep, that project's complete.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
All
We
right.
did that 3 years ago, I think it was. We each
How
put
much I
half.
get around.
We show a project like that in 2026. That one kind of needs to stay in that year with Sunset Drive, because Linwood has that on their books. We have to kind of coordinate the two entities, so we each have enough money to pay for it. So they're budgeting 300,000 on their side as well. But that gets us down to pretty much zero on our balance, so we're cutting her close on a few of these projects. Then going forward, most of these are neighborhood reconstructs and overlays. But for 2025, it's Hidden Haven. It's the two developments around the golf course in Hidden Haven. Hidden Haven East is a pretty easy one, just basically an overlay in there. There's some bad drainage that will be corrected. Hidden Haven West has a lot of, they kind of cut some corners when they did that development. A lot of the drainage sheet flows across the road, creates water standing on the road, and we have tons and tons of potholes on there. So that needs to be a half overlay, half reconstruct on that project. So that's what we're proposing for 2025. And these are all shown on the map that's included. It's hard to squeeze 48 square miles on the 8.5 by 11 sheet, but I can show you that on a digital copy of that as well. So with that, that's our two attachments. Staff is recommending the attached roads capital improvement plan to the city for consideration and approval with the $50,000 increase in the transfer from the general fund.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we should probably keep a close eye on inflation and cost of doing these projects. Getting behind on roads is a huge problem for cities. There are other cities in Anoka County that have had to respond with double-digit levy increases to offset their roads that they've gotten behind on. So at this point, we're trying to address it a little bit, with the 50,000 every year, but it may get to a point if we continue to see spiking costs that we might have to take the bull by the horns a little bit. The other alternative is you bond for projects, which
Right.
which
Well,
is
we
debt,
gotta have roads.
which is debt, and adding to the debt, which is not necessarily a favorable option either. So.
Nope, neither one's palatable. Debt or inflation, which one do you want?
Right.
Neither.
So what's needed, a motion to accept it? I
Yeah,
move to
motion.
accept
Accept.
the 50,000 increase in road capital, is that what it was?
Correct.
And projects.
Project?
And two projects.
I'll second it.
So we're basically voting to accept the 2025 street capital improvement plan as proposed by Mr. Ashford.
With the 50,000
Includes that, yep, for the budget.
added.
You want to enunciate that again in your mic so the transcriber can hear it too?
Oh, my voice usually carries pretty good anyway.
I just want to make sure.
I move to accept the 2025-26 road capital with the $50,000 addition.
Okay,
And I seconded it.
and you second, and
Brian
Mr. Mundell
second.
seconded it. Any further discussion?
I just have one thing, so is that what you brought up, you wanted to check in so we don't waste the money on the Sandhill crane? So does that affect this, or is that something you can check into after we make it approved?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, currently as part of the plan, we would plan to uphold that agreement. As far as what we can chat with the county about and possibly come up with a plan that doesn't need to spend that money, it would just be left in reserve then, as opposed to spending that $360,000 unless you were to, apply that towards a grade separated interchange project as a local contribution, as I indicated, it would remain in the account and we'd have a little higher balance.
We have a year before we have to decide on that one too, so.
Okay. All right.
I should also mention, sorry, I forgot to mention, the state money that we get, the state aid money, that we also get $230,000. Most cities kind of put that money towards the road capital. We put it into our revenue and it just kind of goes into the whole budget. But if you wanted to kind of earmark that in your mind, basically that's paying, you know, $230,000 of this transfer is coming from that money from the state of Minnesota too, so. Just as an accounting aside, I guess.
For maintenance.
Correct, yeah.
For maintenance.
So really, it's only, you know, 500, say 600,000, 230 that's coming from the state of Minnesota. It's only 400.
And that goes where, into the general fund?
It goes into the general fund, yep, on the revenue side. It's not earmarked specifically for this, but a lot of cities will show that when they're doing their budgeting, that they're getting that money for roads.
So is that a good idea to earmark that now, or?
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, our general fund essentially pays for maintenance, so it's an offset.
Yeah,
Already.
Just kind of,
Alright.
kind of an aside way to think about it, I guess.
But it's good to disclose it for full transparency.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, the vote on the 2025 Street Capital Improvement Plan, all in favor as it's proposed, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None heard. Now the Parks Capital Improvement Plan.
Item 8.0E2, the 2025 to 2029 Parks Capital Improvement Plan. The Parks Commission prepares an annual capital improvement plan which updates needs and costs of proposed projects, evaluates priorities, and establishes funding for these works for the coming year and each of the subsequent years for a 5-year period. This plan is presented to the City Council for their approval and used in preparation of the 2025 budget. Attaches the 2025 to 2029 Park CIP developed from discussions at the March 12th, April 9th, and May 14th Park Commission meetings. Approval of the plan only commits the city for the projects identified in 2025. Projects beyond 2025 are for planning purposes and will be reevaluated annually for funding prioritization during the capital improvement needs, assessment, and planning process. Here again, I'll go through these two quick. The attachment 1 there, the first page, is the Parks Acquisition and Development Fund. The funding for this fund comes from new developments. When the city takes fees in lieu of parkland, it goes into this account. So in 2025, we show a revenue of $363,000. That's proposed from the Viking Meadows project. That might not all come as one, so it may come in phases as they do those different developments, but and basically we're showing $200,000 on the cost and $150,000 on the cost over 2 years for the development of that park. They would like to see all 363 of that put into that park, but the city has discretion on where that money goes. So that'll be kind of a discussion going forward on how much what we're gonna put in there. That'll all come back to the council at that time. And really beyond that, we're just kind of guessing on an annual $40,000 fee that can be zero. Was that way for a long time when development wasn't going on. Could be a lot more if development increases. $40,000 is typical what we see for a 20-acre development. So the only other project we have listed on there is the Booster West ball field lights. That was identified at a number of years in the past as a project they'd like to see for the baseball field at Booster West, to have the town ball team be able to play back here and kind of maybe increase some stuff for people to do locally, go watch a town baseball team play. They need lights to play because their games last longer than the sun will allow. So we got quotes on that and it was pretty high, so we've kind of just pushed that down there as a placeholder. It's something that the Park Commission would like to see, but they understand that the cost is too high right now, so it's just kind of sitting out there.
I was thinking it was Booster Park Shade. Where did I pick up that idea?
That was in the, it was in the consent agenda for tonight. There's 2 shade structures that were approved for this year.
Okay.
And those are basically kind of like pavilions with a canvas top, fabric top, about a third of the size of this room, basically. There'll be 2 of those on each side of the concession stand for parents and grandparents to watch games and stuff. So that's pretty much it for the Park Acquisition and Development Fund. On the next page is the Park Capital Fund. This is funded through a direct transfer from the general fund. We're currently at $100,000. The Park Commission wanted to see a slight increase each year to help kind of offset inflation and rising costs. So they're requesting bump it up to $110,000 for 2025, and then $10,000 basically going forward. The two projects they have planned for 2025 are the Baton Street Trail segment. This is the last piece of that trail segment that would connect kind of Booster Park up to 229th and eventually the Fish Lake trail system up there. And then the John Anderson Trail connection. This is the one that's the connection from John Anderson to the neighboring development that we're still working on. They asked that be shown on there as a budgeted. That was approved at one time and then it was removed, and they wanted to put it back in there.
Is that the one we kiboshed in 2011?
That was the Baton Street Trail segment, yep. About 3/4 of that is already built now. This will be the last segment to be built. We did a lot of it ourselves. The one we're doing right now, our guys built themselves, and then the one last year. The developer did part of it, the north part of it. For 2026, we've got a zip line for Booster West. They want to see some more pickleball courts. That's a huge request that we receive. Concrete bag toss. They're looking at just a couple disc golf goals to put out there for people to throw at. Those are all pretty low-cost projects. And then going forward, we have pickleball courts at various parks. We've got quite a few requests for some neighborhood parks.
What's pickleball?
It's like full-size ping pong, basically. It's
Cross swing, ping pong, and tennis.
Yep, it's a
Not
court
quite.
that's about half the size of a tennis court. You use a tennis net, and you play with like a wiffle ball and a paddle. I think it's considered one of the fastest growing sports in the United States, but there's bars and restaurants opening up down in Blaine.
Tennis for old folks.
It's,
I think city staff ought to put together
real
a
popular
team.
in Florida and Arizona.
Yeah, that's what it is.
On the pickleball line, I was thinking about that when talking about another use for the ice arena in the summertime. What would it take to get some pickleball courts set up in there? Because there is a pickleball league in Oka County.
We could look into it. We wouldn't be able to put anything into the floor itself. Because of the cooling lines in there would have to be some kind of freestanding net with, lines that are easy to put on there.
Yeah, you
But
do that
some
pedestal
paint
net.
and set some nets up and,
Yeah.
I mean, if,
Large doors for airflow.
Like I said, it's not bad in the spring and fall. In the summertime, it's
yeah,
hot in there.
but thought it might be one option since it's the fastest growing sport, as they say.
And that's kind of it. We've got repairing the Booster East parking lot needs to be repaved. We have that in 2028, so. And with that, the Park Commission recommends this unanimously and is looking for approval from the City Council.
Make a motion to approve the 2025 through 2029 Parks Capital Improvement Plan with the $110,000 for Parks Capital Improvement.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. So the next item on the agenda is the ice arena management contract proposals. And Nate, you're up again.
Yep, this is my last one here. Item 8.0E3, the ice arena management contract proposal. The current ice arena management contract with Gibson Management Corporation is set to expire on July 31st of 2024. The city has utilized Gibson Management since 2008 for the management and operation of the city ice arena. The city was responsible for the operation of the facility from its opening in 1994 until 2006. The Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission, which runs the Super Rink, managed the arena from 2006 to 2008, but declined to renew their contract with the city beyond 2008. Gibson Management was hired for the 2008-2009 year as the arena manager and then received approval for a 3-year contract extension in 2009, 12, 15, 18, and 21. The city published notice for and invited requests for proposals for this service this year and received 2 proposals shown as attachments 1 and 2 with the annual cost summarized below. Gibson Management proposed a 3-year contract with the 24-25 season being $115,000, the 25-26 season being $120,000, and the 26-27 season being $125,000. The Sports Facilities Company proposed a $204,000 contract plus 10% of ice rental revenue, 20% of sponsorship revenue, and reimbursed travel expenses. The East Bethel Ice Arena is a city-owned building that is operated as an enterprise fund with the costs of operation directly funded by the users without the need for funds from the general fund tax levy if operated as designed. The Ice Arena Enterprise Fund began operating in the black in 2013 and has been able to grow a positive balance to pay for facility repairs and upgrades since that time. Both of the submitted proposals require securing additional funding to keep the ice arena operating at a break-even point, with the low proposal from Gibson Management representing a 32% increase over the 2024 costs. Possible sources of additional funding could come from raising ice rental rates, greatly increasing advertising, or subsidizing costs with general fund tax revenue. Another possible option is to reduce operational costs by performing the management of the ice arena in-house with city staff. Staff has put together an estimate and operational cost for the city to perform this service and is shown in attachment 3. The estimated annual cost would be approximately $102,000 with $13,000 contingency built into the estimate. Staff would be responsible for hiring and managing part-time ice arena attendants, coordinating and scheduling ice rental times, installing and removing the ice sheet, and administration and HR responsibilities associated with the part-time employees. These responsibilities would be in addition to all the employees' workload, so every effort will be made to minimize the use of existing city staff and maximize the use of part-time help and vendors, along with leveraging any options that the St. Francis Youth Hockey Association can offer. Staff is looking for a recommendation as to the management of the arena for 2025.
I move that we initially go with the city to operate it with the understanding that it's a trial, right? And if somebody comes along and wants to buy it, it's going.
Motion's made, is there a second?
Does that motion include selling the building?
I didn't think about that.
Mr. Mayor, I think the discussion in the past was if someone wanted to buy the business, the city would lease the building to the new owner of the business. And
Is the city constrained by any codicils on a previous purchase agreement or anything that keeps us from selling it if that were a possibility?
We have a tower lease on the property that's.
You have a what?
Cell tower lease on the property for that big
What?
cell tower
Cell
that's
tower.
behind.
Oh, cell tower.
I think it's a
I thought you
25-year
said-
lease.
I thought you
on-
were saying self-power. I said, what does that mean?
Yeah, there's a cell tower lease on the property, and we have an agreement with MnDOT for a parking right on the property.
So that would have to transfer to a buyer soon and all that, yeah?
Correct.
Okay.
unless, Mr. Mayor, you were just lease a facility to the
Right,
business
right.
for $1 or whatever amount you wanted to, you know.
Yeah, I have no idea what
Right.
previous agreements are in place.
So what's this motion say?
That we approve the plan to self-manage, for the city of East Bethel to self-manage the ice arena. Am I saying it right, Bob? You made the
Yes,
motion.
sir.
Maybe you want to say it, I don't know.
No, you're doing all right.
You did follow up with
To be sold.
to be sold, so I just want clarification that,
Well,
It-
if somebody
it-
wants to come along and buy it.
well, that's a whole nother discussion, I think.
Yeah,
We're not approving any open bidding sale or
Right.
anything like
No,
that.
it wasn't the
This is
intent.
just strictly for, operational management of the ice arena.
Second.
Okay.
okay, I think we got it. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none heard. That concludes the bulk of the agenda. Do there any staff reports or council reports?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, we have, as of tomorrow, we have Eckberg and Lammers going through a legislative update of the, what is it, the
2024
omnibus-
legislative session.
Omnibus Prime Bill, or whatever they refer to it as, the big one. So anyways, that's, you can tune into that if you'd like. They'll send you meeting information for signing up for that if you'd like to, free of charge. And we want to thank them for doing that, because that represents some serious time in going through that entire bill and being able to identify, there's a lot of human service things in there that might not apply to the city, but there's other things that do apply to the city. So thank you for that. Then on June 6th, there's going to be an open house here. The county is going to put on for the ditch abandonment for Capstone. So if anyone wants to attend that, and it's part of the public process, and
But it does sound funny.
and it's
Have
required.
a service for a ditch abandonment. And what was that? What date was that?
That's June 6th.
June 6th, so that's
So-
all been okayed?
So that's the open house. So if
Well,
there's
what is
no,
that, what does that mean?
So
essentially
they must okay the ditch abandonment then,
it's
right?
essentially meeting the public requirement to go through this process.
Oh, okay, okay.
Picture taker.
It's my first ditch abandonment, that's why. I'm
You get to-
not
it'll
up to
be-
speed.
It'll be exciting, I'm sure.
Okay, great. Do you think it'll top the DOT building down near Coon Lake? I don't know.
I do want to report that I met with Aaron and myself met with a developer whose first comment out of his mouth was, what is your architectural standards? So on point with the architectural standards that we were just approved here this evening. There's already developers that are interested in knowing, you know, he had given an example where he built an industrial building, paid $6 million for it. He builds one today, it's $9 million. So if you can save some money
Yeah.
in that, it's certainly an area of interest for these developers, and we'll see if they are going to be interested in that 65 and Sims concept there. I also want to report that the missing middle housing bill that had everybody up in arms in the city in terms of taking away planning and zoning authority did not pass. So that's a good thing. And,
Yeah.
but there's quite a few other things again that did pass. So we'll including the ESST, the earn sick and save time that we talked about in the work session. That was one item that passed as well. So, but aside from that, that is all that I have for an update, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Mr. Look? Any council updates?
Yeah, I stopped by the ball field over in Coon Lake Beach
Yep.
when Midwest Speed were putting their sign up. I got a picture of it, I'll pass it around, you wanna see it. Looks pretty good, it's got East Bethel, the city logo in the middle, and then other sponsors on the sides. But they were really appreciative of the field and the way it looks. All the years I've been up there, that field has looked pretty rough.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
guys
it's
want new
looking good right
field,
now.
new fencing, new dugouts, new, pretty much everything.
Very good. Anything further, or we'll adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unheard.